be your host for today's session. We're very excited to welcome you to this webinar about the IFR4NPO project and how it's relevant for stakeholders in Sierra Leone. Much as the primary audience is stakeholders in Sierra Leone, I know we also have registrations from other countries, so you are all welcome, especially my colleagues from Monrovia. NGOs do play a great role in Sierra Leone, as we all know, in supporting our development strides, and they're viewed as partners by the government in working towards sustainable development. In many parts of the country, especially outside the city, the viable presence of NPOs are clearly seen, either the vehicles supplying the routes in and out of Freetown, or their signboards indicating their presence in communities or pointing to projects implemented or being implemented. Having said that, let's move on to the next slide. So this, in this meeting, we will introduce the IFR4NPO project. And before opening up for some small group discussions and feedback, and we'll then look at how we as stakeholders in Sierra Leone and beyond can get involved and play our part in shaping the future of financial reporting for non-profit organizations, and our needs and perspectives are reflected. As I mentioned, my name is Leslie Williams. I'm the project country champion for Sierra Leone, and I'm your host for today. I'm also delighted to be joined by Tamba Momo, one of the Deputy Auditor Generals of the Audit Service in Sierra Leone. And Tamba is also responsible for specialized audits in the Audit Service, and he also doubles up as a member of the Technical Advisory Group in the project. And also the IFR4NPO Project Director, Samantha Musuku, is also with us today. I'm glad to welcome and recognize the presence of some important figures in our nation who've registered to be here with us, hoping that they're here at the moment. We expected the Director of the NGO Affairs, Eric Masali, who sits at the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, and are also expecting the Deputy Coordinator of the Sierra Leone Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, as NPOs are referred to in Sierra Leone, and the Director of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sierra Leone, ICASL. If the Deputy Director of SLANGO is with us, I wonder if it would be okay for him to say a few words. Edward, are you around? Are you with us? Okay, it doesn't seem like Edward is around at all. I wonder if the Director, Fatmata Denton, is around at all. No, they may join us later, and if they do, we'll give them the opportunity to say a few words. It is great, indeed, to see many of you here. So please take a moment to introduce yourselves by typing in the chat your name, your designation, and also your organization. Thank you very much. Also, please feel free to use the reaction buttons to show a thumbs up or something to help us know how you're feeling about what we're talking about together today. So you can use those features so that we know that you agreeing with us, or you want some clarifications on what we're talking about this morning. Thank you. I will now hand over to Sam to say a few words. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I'm really delighted to be here with you this morning for this meeting. As Leslie said, I am the project director for IFR4NPO for Humentum. A little bit about me: I'm a chartered accountant from the UK, but I've actually lived in Uganda in East Africa for 21 years. working in and for the nonprofit sector. And as we develop this world's first international financial reporting guidance, which is really tailored for the needs of the nonprofit sector, it's just so vital that we draw on the expertise, on the experience, on the perspectives of stakeholders all over the world. So if you're here as an NPO, as a donor, as a regulator, auditor, or civil society, only by hearing your input and your expertise can we create something that will be useful and meaningful and relevant, which can then go on to be adopted by many jurisdictions and become a global standard for the sector. So I hope that you've come today ready to listen and learn, but also please get your pen and paper out. As you're listening, please jot things down, jot down ideas, critiques, questions that come to mind. There will be time later for us to hear from you, and I'm here with my ears on rather than my mouth on today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. I'd really like to thank Leslie Williams and Tamba Momo for all the hard work and their invaluable efforts to bring us this event today, and just in reaching out to stakeholders in Sierra Leone. And I'm really looking forward today to an inspiring and fruitful meeting, and excited to hear what you all have to say. So thank you. Back to you, Leslie.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Sam. Okay, I just wanted to give a big brief background on what's been happening in terms of NGOs or standard setting in Sierra Leone. Basically, a few years ago, probably about 3, 4, 5 years ago, sorry, a study was commissioned by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund assessing the accounting practice in Sierra Leone with reference to international financial reporting standard requirements. And as a result of that, the World Bank, after they've done that study, came up with a grant supporting the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Sierra Leone through the CSAG, which is the Council for Standards of Accounting, Auditing, Corporate and Institutional Governance. This body was set up to regulate standards, to set up standards, to enforce standards, and to ensure that accounting standards are carried out and implemented in the country. One of the standards, or one standard that was set up, was the CS1. CS1 is Composite Standards, Composite Financial Reporting Standard, and this was basically tailored for NGOs in Sierra Leone. This standard was mirrored to the SOP in the UK, the Charities Commission SOP in the UK, and an extensive training was undertaken. We had NGOs, especially in Freetown, coming together, and there was those trainings and lots of trainings going on and a few meetings. But unfortunately, it did not take off because there was not much political will, and there was so much, and stakeholders were not involved as they were supposed to, so it did not take off at all. And so we are hoping that we will have a buy-in this time around in Sierra Leone and be a part of the global standard in Sierra Leone. And so thank you. With that brief introduction, I want to hand over now to Tamba Momo, who will take us through most of the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I have had some few technical issues here, but I think I'm up and running now. I hope you can all hear me all right.
Perfect.
Leslie, you can hear me? Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I greet you all from Freetown. You may not all be in Freetown, so I greet you all from Freetown. Just a brief introduction that I would like to add make a few clarifications. Firstly, I am not here as Deputy Auditor General. I am here in my personal capacity and my involvement with this project from 2016. So I just wanted to make sure that we are all clear on this quickly. Secondly, I want to also indicate that, I have been involved in this project before even it became a project. So all the way back in Toronto in Canada, It was in 2016 during the spring meeting of IFAS. This is the International Financial Reporting, International Financial Accounting Standard Setters meeting that it normally holds twice a year. And it was at that meeting that we were informed after several deliberations and many meetings before that, that the IFRS Board of Trustees have decided that developing or trying to develop a standard for not-for-profit is not something that they wish to look at, and therefore someone else had to look into it. So a group was set up that time, myself and about 15 other colleagues all over the world, and that's how I got involved in this process. So today we are where we are, and it's a project. So I'm going to just run through a few slides, and then we can have questions later on. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So Leslie has done the brief introduction, and so let us now dive right in and look at what the IFR4NPO project is all about. Well, sorry, my system. You have heard of a problem tree, I'm sure. But when it comes to financial reporting in the not-for-profit sector, it seems like we have a problem forest. So many problems in one group area. So now we call it a problem forest, not just a problem tree, it's not one tree. Different problems are experienced by all stakeholders and are mostly acute in and by those in countries that do not have international standards or national standard setting bodies. For example, there are slides that I'm going to show you or that you see that will talk about the various problems and various causes of those problems to various stakeholders that I'll go through in a minute. Of course, some NPOs are not donor funded. That means they find their own monies wherever they can get them, not formally funded by donors. And not all the issues that I'm about to discuss would therefore apply to them. Generally, funders say that most audited accounts are not particularly useful to them, resulting in high cost of due diligence, which impacts on grantees as well as the donors, of course, with many potential grantees being excluded or ineligible for certain types of funding because of the issue of the financial reports that are being produced. For NPOs, a reliance on project-based funding rather than on restricted income is a common problem, which makes it difficult to build reserves and causes multiple and duplicative reporting and audits. For auditors, one of our stakeholder groups, the focus on project-level audits can make it hard to identify double funding fraud, which is a key concern of donors. Moreover, they often have to issue their opinion with reference to standards that are designed with for-profit entities in mind and are left to offer their own solutions where those standards are silent or seem inappropriate for NPO issues, which obviously results in inconsistencies. For regulators, another set of stakeholders, and civil society, they are broadly looking at information and transparency, and the lack of those will bring about lack of trust. That will be an issue that will cause problems for having domestic philanthropists and also for creating an environment where perhaps things like tax exemption could be considered. These problems have many root causes, but one common thread is a lack of international applicable financial reporting standard for non-profit organizations. So what will the IFR4NPO deliver? The solution that the IFRM project is providing is internationally applicable guidance for how NPOs should prepare their annual general purpose financial reports. it will be up to a particular country to decide whether to adopt or align to those guidelines, and whether certain NPOs within their jurisdiction should be required or allowed to follow it. Funders may recognize this as best practice and encourage its use where entities are allowed to adopt it. The future outcome and benefits are wide-ranging. For NPOs applying the guidance, it means they will be better able to demonstrate their capacity and attract funds, as well as supporting the provision of decision information for governance and management. For funders, it contributes to better and more efficient due diligence, which is a win for NPOs too, of course. And having clear guidelines simplifies and improves the value of audit assurance. One of the other really important outcomes from this project, separate from the guidelines itself, is the creation of a global community of stakeholders able to engage and collaborate to solve sector-wide issues, and this has never existed before. Ultimately, we believe that the guidelines will contribute to a more resilient and accountable sector that is better able to attract, generate, and utilize funds to achieve positive social good. Which financial reports, you may ask? NPOs may produce different types of financial reports, so it is important to be clear which reports are and are not the focus of this project. The NPO project, the IFR4NPO project, is focused on the general purpose financial statement and the accompanying narrative reports. These are also known as the annual audited accounts and are for the entire entity rather than for a specific project. They are designed to be useful for a range of readers or users rather than being produced to meet the needs of one specific reader. Of course, the different types of financial reports that NPOs produce are connected because they are generated from the same accounting system and they are derived from the same transactions as well. There are other initiatives, I must say, that are ongoing and they are currently in progress to harmonize other donor reporting formats, which is clearly complementary and vitally important. But to be clear, this is not the primary focus of this project. So what are the project objectives? There are three stated objectives for the guidance that will be produced by this project. The first objective is to produce the quality, the first objective is to improve the quality, transparency, and credibility of the financial reports of NPOs. The second objective is to support the provision of NPO financial information and is useful for decision-making and accountability, balancing the needs of both preparers and users. The third and final objective is to address specific NPO issues which will promote increased comparability of NPO financial reports. We'll do a quick, I want us to just do a quick poll, sorry, and see whether these issues, where we are with them, for those of us who are in attendance today. Sam, over to you. So the poll is on the screen. You can quickly just respond to the question that is asked. Do these issues and objectives resonate with you? Yes, greatly. Yes, but I have questions to some extent and not really. Can we just quickly Okay.
Shall I hand it there, Tamba? We've got
Yes, can we have the result, please, Sam?
69%. Okay.
So 67% says yes, greatly. 11% says yes, but they have questions, and 22% says to some extent. So largely, we are more or less saying this group that it resonates with us. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for responding to that poll. Let's move on quickly, please, Sam. So what are the key questions? There are some of the key questions that are often asked whenever we try to talk about this, and we want to try and see if we can address some of them now. Number one, who is delivering this project? People will normally ask. Well, the project is being implemented by two organizations in partnership, Umentum and CIFA. So who is Umentum? Umentum is the leading global non-profit organization working with humanitarian and development organizations to improve how they operate and to make the community equitable, accountable, and resilient. They convene NPO professionals and inspire sector-wide change. Some of you may have heard of Mango and also Inside NGO. Well, these two organizations merged in 2017, and they are the ones that formed Umentum. The other partner in the implementation of this project is CIFA, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy. This is a UK-based professional accountancy organization with standard-setting roles for local governments and charities. CIFA also plays an important role as an international convener on public sector accounting issues. Well, both CIFA and Umentum are themselves NPOs. Between them, the project partners are well connected to a range of stakeholders within the sector that are critical to this project. So we could say that it is the sector for the sector. So we are doing this ourselves for ourselves. Seed funding to enable the project to be launched has been provided by Open Society Foundations and the Ford Foundation. The Oak Foundation and Wellspring Foundations also have provided funding in recent months. No funder, I will repeat that, no funder has influence over the outcome or the content of this guidance. Then there is another group called the Technical Advisory Group. The project team is a very small team which draws on the expertise of advisory groups who offer their perspective and experience on a voluntary basis. The Technical Advisory Group comprises national accounting standard setters from 5 continents and as an official observer from the International Accounting Standards Board. This is the group that I sit on, as Leslie mentioned earlier. The second group I would like to talk about is the Practitioner Advisory Group. This group includes preparers, users, auditors, academics, specializing in the not-for-profit sector. We are proactively seeking to build and maintain diversity in these groups. Information about each group member, details of all the meetings can be found on the project website so that the process is completely transparent. Then there is another third group called the Donor Reference Group. During the project's outreach sessions, it was highlighted that for many NPOs, most of the financial reporting effort and the accounting system setup is driven largely by the requirements of their donors. We were told by NPOs, quote, if our donors don't recognize this guidance as best practice, it will not be useful or helpful to us, end of quote. So a donor reference group was established specifically to seek their input and hopefully secure their support and ultimate endorsement. These meetings are not published though, but we do share reports on key outputs as appropriate. Most recently, we published a report on how donors make use of general purpose financial reports of grantees and potential grantees, and how that could be made even more useful. So, engagements. Beyond the advisory and reference groups, the project is engaging with stakeholders all over the world. And as Sierra Leoneans and people who live in Sierra Leone, we have also been invited to be part of this process. How and when? Well, now we get to look at the overview of how and when. The guidance is being developed using a 3-phase process equivalent to all other standard setting processes. Phase 1, which is now being completed, by the way, was the consultation phase. The key output was a 280-page consultation paper, which presented questions for structured input from stakeholders. The second phase is a development phase, where we will analyze the feedback from the consultation and use that as a base to develop draft guidelines, which is exposed for comment and is normally referred to and called in our circles as exposure draft. Excuse me. The third phase takes stock of the feedback from the exposure draft and puts through changes before launching the final guidance, which is expected in early 2025. By developing the guidance itself is really the beginning. The benefits will be felt after it is widely adopted and used. This is why there are two key aspects of this project design. One aspect is the technical rigor applied in the guidance development process, led by SIFA, of course. The other aspect is the stakeholder engagement led by Momentum, who is actively trying to seek out stakeholders all over the world, regulators, national professional accountancy organizations, like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sierra Leone, donors, and NPOs to participate in the development process so that they are ready and willing to adopt it when it is ready. So which issues? The NPO-specific issues being addressed by the project can be split between landscape-level issues and specific technical accounting and reporting issues. At the landscape level, it is addressing the fundamental questions like, who are the users of NPO reports and what are their information needs? How are the concepts and pervasive, I beg your pardon, principles different from those in the for-profit and also the public sector? In terms of specific issues, you can see the list here. For example, how to account for non-exchange income like grants and donations. How to lay out the presentation of the main financial statements. There are videos, technical papers, webinars, links, etc., all online, and you can be part of this conversation by checking those on our website. The website is www.IFR4NPO.org. What will the guidance actually be called? Well, the guidance will be called INPAG, INPAG. So the International Non-Profit Accounting Guidance. The longer vision, however, and the hope is that one day it will be issued by a recognized international accounting standard setting body and become known, hopefully, as INPAS, alongside IFRS and IPSAS. Which NPOs are we trying to target with this project? To our final question, which NPOs guidance is trying to address, our sector is wonderfully diverse. So the users of NPO financial report, therefore, have a wide range of needs. To focus the effort of the project, they imagined dividing all the world's NPOs into 3 broad tiers. At one end, tier 3, are micro NPOs. The users of their financial reports are likely to have simpler needs, and the cash basis report could be sufficient for their own needs. At the other and tier 1 NPO end, we have NPOs that have complex needs. This might be because they hold funds of service users, or because they also have debts that they have raised maybe in public exchanges, and they also have other international commitment that they may have. So in their case, an international accrual-based standard could be needed to meet all their reporting needs. So then there is level 2 in the middle. The NPOs that are in level 2, they need to track their assets and liabilities, report on the range of transactions and activities to meet the needs of their users of their financial statements. IMPAGE is designed for these NPOs with the need of their users in mind. So the project aims to solve the middle problem. That's the intention of the project. If we can get this right, it should be easier in years to come, hopefully not too many years to come, not too far away, to create solutions for others in the other tiers. That said, the guidance should be relevant, useful for all NPOs, and it is important to remember that it is up to regulators in the different countries in the world to decide which specific NPOs should be allowed or required to use these standards when finally they are published. Thank you very much for listening. I will pass over to Leslie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tamba. Thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. And I'm sure every one of us now have a good understanding of what we're doing and what this project is all about, and basically where we want to go forward with this project. I am so excited about this project and impact, and I just want it to be launched now, so that we NPOs can start using this reporting tool. So thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next sector of the session today, and we're going to break out into small groups. So having had that introduction now, we will just give you a chance to meet some of the other people here and be able to share your reactions and questions in smaller groups. So we'll be using breakout rooms, as I said before. And once the rooms are launched, you'll be taken to a new meeting room with about 8 to 10 people, depending on the number of people participants we have today, and the session will last for 12 minutes. So the breakout session will last for 12 minutes. So it would work best if you if you're able to have your videos and microphones on for the small group meeting. So you're able to discuss and you're able to make inputs into what we've been discussing. If you have any problems whilst in the meeting room, please use the feature to ask host a question, and someone will be able to respond to your questions. When there are 3 minutes left in the time, we will post a message to tell you. And with 1 minute left, we will then close the breakout rooms and everyone will automatically come back to the main meeting room. So what do you talk about when you get into the meeting room? Once you get into the meeting room, after your brief introductions, share any questions or comments that you have that have come to mind from the introductory presentation. Is there anything that you would still like clarification on? Those are the questions you want to bring up. And then we want you to discuss the benefits. So in terms of how might the NPOs, regulators, auditors, and donors in Sierra Leone benefit from the guidance, and also what challenges do you see and how might these challenges be overcome? So when it's time up, you automatically revert back to the main meeting and we'll have a chance to share some of the key ideas from your group. Do you have any questions before we launch the breakout room? Does anyone have any questions at all? You can raise your hand, please.
Maybe just to clarify, these would be questions about the process, not questions about the project. So if you've got questions about the project, you're going to discuss them in the breakout rooms. And if you've got questions about the breakout rooms, now's the time to ask those.
Okay, it seems you don't have any questions on the breakout room. So Sam, can you launch us into the breakout rooms? Thank you. So we'll be back in 12 minutes. See you back in 12 minutes. Thank you.
Super. Tamba and Leslie, you'll have to come back. I have put you in the rooms and you can come back as soon as you get there. Hi, Tamba. I'm just going to press pause on the recording.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back from the small groups, and we hope that you had some fruitful and interesting discussions. We will definitely not have time to hear from everyone. We would love to do that, but given the expedition of time, we'll not be able to do that. But we would like to hear back at least 2 reactions or questions, 2 benefits and 2 challenges. So I just want to open the floor to participants who want to give us 2 challenges or 2 questions or reactions from a group. Also 2 benefits and 2 challenges. So it'd be best for just to have one person give a question, another person give another question, and then we move on to the benefits, and one person give one benefit, another person gives another benefit from another group, and then another person give a benefit from a challenge from another group, and another challenge from another group. I see Suleiman's hand is up. Yeah, Suleiman, go on.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Suleiman Warite, the Executive Director of Community and Animation for Rural Development, acronym CAD. In our section, we got a couple questions. The first question was why here is not part of this part of the team. Because one of our colleagues said because Europe is one of the bigger donor, and we don't know why they are not listed on the presentation that you guys share with us today.
Okay. Right.
And then my second question is for some of us who are the local NGOs, you know, some of us don't have no donor support. Financially, we are supporting our organizations. So in terms of financial reporting, if we don't have the expertise, then I want to know how we can reach out for help for, I don't know, through Slango, so that we can able to have someone that can assist us to prepare our financial reporting.
Right.
Those are my 2 questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Solomon. Thank you. I'll just get one more question, and then I'll hand over to Sam, who would try and answer some of those questions for us. Any other question, please? Any other question? So there wasn't. Is there any other hand up?
Or comments or reactions. It doesn't have to be questions.
Yeah, or comments from your group. Okay, over to you, Sam. Do you want to answer this question? One, why the EU is not part of the donor group, and the other one is how the local NGOs that are not supported by donor group, by any donor, how are they going to be able to implement this project? Would they be able to have help from Slango or somebody else to kind of get this done? Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Leslie. That's two brilliant questions, Suleiman. And I'm sure if there are other questions, by the way, from other groups, but you don't want to share them here, do put them in the chat. Any questions or comments or reactions, really good to hear them. So the first one was, we mentioned about the donor reference group, which had like the World Bank and USAID and the DFID in the UK and a number of US foundations. And the question is, why is the EU not there? So that's a really good question. We have reached out to ECHO and the EU, and they have not so far been very keen to be involved. We're still working on persuading them to join and engage with this. I think they participated in a donor reporting harmonization project some years back, and they made changes to their own reporting, and they fear that, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I'm on record, so I better not say more than I know. I don't really understand quite why, but we are definitely hoping to continue to engage with them and invite them back. And I think the more donors that come on, the more likely they are to want to join in and participate. So we hope to see them on board in future. Then the next question, I'm not sure I can answer this because Slango sounds like a Sierra Leone something NGO, so Association of NGOs or something. What I can answer from the project point of view, the last part of the project, as we near 2025 and the guidance is due to be issued, we will be developing training materials on how to apply this guidance. The guidance will include lots of worked examples and things like that. So there will be free training as part of the project. No doubt there will need to be national efforts alongside that. So maybe, Leslie, you could speak to that. Maybe that's something that you might consider having a plan for in years to come.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Sam. I think, yes, if I start from that side, I think basically I'm building or have built a relationship with Slango. So hopefully we would try to do something on that level in terms of doing something through Slango. So it means we'll not have, have a training session for every organization as a one-to-one, but we could organize, one or two sessions in terms of training for NGOs. I suppose it's not just for NGOs that don't have donor support. I think most NGOs would benefit from a training session, and so I think that's something I would keep in mind to do, definitely. And I think another thing I want to say, Sam, I think one of the reason why maybe Suleiman has asked that question as well, is because the EU is a very big donor in Sierra Leone. So it means for us, it's like very important for the EU to be a part of it, because then if you are going to have one, report, a standard report, and if the EU is like, no, we don't recognize that report, it means that you have to do another set of reports for them, which then makes it, cumbersome, because then it doesn't bring out the benefits of the project. Because what we want to do is to eliminate all of those little reports and have one report that serves donors and funders. So I think as much as possible, if we can try and get the EU on, will be very good. Will be great.
Yes.
For Sierra Leone.
Heard loud and clear. Also, let me just clarify one thing. I think we have to be really careful to manage expectations here. Okay, so this project is about your annual audited accounts, your general purpose accounts, which are for the entity as a whole. Your EU grant, your grant B, your grant C, your grant D, and your unrestricted funds. These reports will be really useful for your board for managing the organization as a whole. They might be filed. You might be required to file them by regulators. You might choose to publish them. you might send them to a future donor as part of your due diligence. They're for your annual financial cycle, and they're usually in your currency, and according to your own, whatever standards you have nationally or you choose to follow or are required to follow. Right now, this project does not have any authority to say, USAID, you need to change the way you do your reports, or for any donor to actually harmonize their own reporting is a separate matter. What we're hoping, and again, this is a very long-term vision. If the donors are able to come together to harmonize their reports, which is separate from our project, and if the annual general purpose reports are harmonized, you've at least got only two things to reconcile to each other, right? You've got one set of general purpose financial reports, which are consistent and similar, and hopefully a consistent and similar set of donor reports, which would be often in the donor currency, in the donor expenditure categories, in the donor currency, perhaps. They're never going to replace each other. Although one of the things we hope for, and again, I mustn't overpromise, but I dream of and hope for, is we're looking at something, and it was discussed in the consultation paper, and it has been agreed as a direction of travel, is to have a supplementary donor statement or series of supplementary statements within the general purpose audited accounts. We are consulting the donor reference group on what that might look like. And in an ideal future world, donors would say, well, we can rely on your financial audit for the financial assurance part of it, and then maybe focus more of our own audit efforts on project outcomes and things like that. Sure. But it's really up to donors to get there, and we're a long way. So that might not happen until 2030, but this is a long-term project. So let me manage expectations.
Thank you. But that would be great if we can get that. I see a hand up, I think, Sulia, if I pronounce your name well. Do you have a question, or do you want to pose a challenge or a benefit?
Not a challenge, just a question that will somehow clarify my understanding, because I thought it was quite clear from the presentation that this project is beyond Sierra Leone. But based on the latest feedback, I wanted just to make sure that I get it right. Is it a locally managed project for Sierra Leone, or it's actually broader than that, which is an international project that involves not only Sierra Leone, but all the humanitarian, or all the development industry? Just to make sure that I get it right.
Definitely, it's not for Sierra Leone specifically. It's an international project. As you see, it's like you have your IFRSs or your IPSAs. So basically, that's what we're driving towards. We want an international standard or international guidance, as it is for now, that covers NGOs or NPOs worldwide. So we're just doing this one to introduce it to Sierra Leone. So we've had other countries who've done similar exercise like this. They've done meetings like that. So that's how it is.
Right.
So we have champions in loads of countries, and that's what we've been doing. Is that okay?
Is there any plan to involve some other group of people in the other countries that may have special interest in this project, just to make sure that by the end of this project, you have a network of people that have been from the onset of this project, so that actually when it will be time to do the rollout, then you have a network of people that have been, have a good experience on the background of this project, so that actually the rollout will be a bit smoother.
Sure, that's what I've just said, that there's a country champion in Nigeria, there's one in Ghana, and for instance, I'm just giving examples, there's one in Peru. So they're doing the same, similar to what I'm doing now, or what we're doing now. So basically we have a whole network across the world in terms of champions. So yeah, when we come to implementation, it's going to be everyone coming together and doing it, definitely.
And Saleh, if I can just add to that, we have a sort of global mailing list. So people that subscribe to the project through our website join our global mailing list, and we analyze that according to the stakeholder groups. So we try and find out which country everybody's in, and also whether they're an NPO or an accountant or a standard setter or an auditor, etc. So exactly that, it's to create this community that can be cross-sector and regional and national and international, to achieve exactly that. So you're bang on. You can come and have my job as stakeholder outreach and stakeholder outreach engagement strategy. That's exactly what we're working on.
All
Should we bring in Saeed?
Saeed, yeah, Saeed. Yeah, Saeed, go on. You're muted. Okay.
Yes. I think I just want to make a comment somehow. I don't know whether I can resolve also on a question, but regarding the EU not participating, I was looking at the fact that EU are more their reporting framework. It's more based on IFR4NPO. It's an agreed upon procedure. They are not primarily looking at balance sheets audits. So I think maybe that is the reason, because if you're talking about standard, you're talking about the whole financial reporting, balance sheet, and income statement and the like. But the EU specifically, the report is just based on expenditure verification. Maybe that's the reason why, if you're talking about standards, which should be basically looking at the overall reporting, balance sheet and income statement. Whilst I don't think their reporting framework is not in line with this. Maybe that is the reason why maybe they are not seeing this whole standard thing as something, as a priority to them. I don't know, because if they were looking at balance sheet audit, then maybe they would have been interested, maybe looking at what we are looking forward to in terms of creating standards for NPOs. So I was just thinking about that. Maybe that is the reason, because their reporting is strictly one-way reporting, expenditure, and they give you the format.
Yeah. Can I speak to that, Saeed?
Yes,
because
please.
you're absolutely right. And I think that is part of the challenge of this, is that every single donor has their own format. So I don't think it's specific to the EU, because it's same for USAID. It's the same for FCDO or DFID or ECHO or GTZ or any sort of project funder that you get restricted donations from. There's usually a level of expenditure verification on that project, on those restricted funds. So, and I think this is exactly where some of the complexities and the conflicts come in. If the EU requires their funds reported against these lines, and USAID requires their funds reported against these lines, and they're different, I end up with a bit of a pickle in my accounting system, which you don't see in the corporate world, right? Nobody tells companies how to set up their expenditure analysis. So this is part of the challenge that we have. Now, what's interesting is donors like USAID, for example, have been really strong advocates for putting a donor expenditure statement as part of the general purpose accounts. And one of the meetings that we had actually in October of the DRG, the topic was first of all, do donors use the general purpose accounts with the balance sheet and the income, the whole thing? Do they read those? Do they use them? If they do, what do they use them for? What are they looking for? And how could we make them more useful? So we are looking at how donors interact with the general purpose accounts, how we can meet some of the donor needs in the general purpose account. We won't meet all of their needs. I'm afraid donor reporting is very unlikely to vanish entirely. That's not, I don't think that's a realistic dream, but we can reduce that burden and we can try and make them a bit more consistent with each other so that one accounting system can do more of the work, if that makes sense.
Yes. So in addition, so the overall idea is very good. It's pretty good in terms of standardizing processes and workflow for NPOs. It is very, very, very imperative. So I think this is one aspect, the donor reporting. Now the NPOs itself, their own reporting consists of balance sheets. So that is where this particular proposal is very, very ideal and good, because for the internal reporting of the NGO itself, they need something to standardize their process. So that is where what you are doing is very, very ideal, and I think it's a welcome something. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed.
Thank you so much, Saeed. So I think we've had a few questions. I want to move on to benefits. If anyone has any.
Leslie, there's one more really good one in the chat. Can I just speak to this one?
Please.
This is
yes,
Laurent Gienier So Jenge, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, sorry. I don't know if you're here still, Laurent, but in the chat, he said, how is this initiative is complying with IFRS standards? What is the approach regarding the national financial standards? In many countries, there are a lot of different standards, but somehow the national accounting standards are more approached towards the IFRS. Really important question. So at the moment, we have around the world, probably 12 or so different countries have got their own national standards specifically for non-profits. So we have UK charities, we have FASB in the States has its own, Denmark has something, New Zealand has something. They're all specific for non-profits, but they're all different from each other, and they're all designed for their own national context. Now, IFRS is obviously international in its scope, but for profits. It's not really, it doesn't address some of the issues. So what we're doing is we're using IFRS for SME as a starting point with its sections. It's got 24 sections. We'll have 24 sections. We'll take out sections that are about earnings per share and things that are nothing to do with nonprofits. We'll write new sections for things that just aren't covered in IFRS for SME, like non-exchange revenue just really isn't well addressed at all in IFRS for SME. We'll make some terminology revisions and we'll add or modify sections that need to be changed. So what we'll end up with is something that smells a little bit like IFRS for SME, recognizable to the profession, but tailored and modified and really feels like it's for us. Those countries that have their own national standard, hopefully over time, we'll see some alignment to an international norm, just like we have in the corporate and the public sectors over the last 50 years. So that's an excellent perceptive question, Laurent. I hope that addresses it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Les, can I just make an underlying statement as well, please? So I think, do I have the floor, Les?
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
Go on,
so
Samba.
Thank you very much. I think the discussion has been these are the same discussions we have had over and over and over again about trying to build this project. I like the way Sam has just concluded it by linking or comparing it to where we were many years ago with, and we are still there, by the way. There are still some countries that are keeping their own standards. I think Hong Kong, for instance, I don't know. So it is a process, but the EU link there is some of the things that the EU, where the EU is right now. Most of the EU charities are producing accounts using IFRS. So what are you, it's not going to be too meaningful to them. It will be a while, I think, for others to come on board. But I want to also conclude by saying that these standards are for holistic, this is for the entity that we are looking at. The guidelines say this is for the entity. This is not for projects funded by EU or USAID or whatever it is. They may have their requirement. I think these things have been said, but I think they ought to be repeated. So we are saying a local NGO in Sierra Leone wants to put their account together. In fact, some of these accounts, they need them to even attract funding, like I said in my presentation earlier on. So they want to be able to compare you with another charity in Namibia, say, to see who do we give our funding to. Yes, so that is where I think we want to go. I want to also add that I think this is a discussion that we want to continue to have, maybe at national level, ourselves here to say, okay, guys, how do we, including the question that was asked, I think it was Suleiman that asked the question about how do we support local small NGOs? Because we are trying to approach the new tier, even the so-called mid-tier that I referred to in the presentation. What may be mid-tier in Zimbabwe may not be mid-tier in Gambia, or mid-tier in the US. I mean, compared to mid-tier in Gambia, for instance. I mean, how does that? So these are discussions I think that we are going to continue to have, and I'm glad that there's this interest that we are generating in the process. So thank you very much for those comments and questions.
Thank you so much, Samba. Thank you for that comprehensive. Thank you. I think we probably, because of time, we want to move on. Do we foresee any challenges? Do we want to just bring out any challenges that we've foreseen? I think we have actually we've brought in some of the challenges with the questions. So if we don't, we probably just move on to the next slide. Is that okay? Let's move on. Thanks, Sam. So the next slide is looking at the strategy for Sierra Leone, which is how can we participate. And so hopefully that discussion has made us very keen, and I hope it has made every one of you keen to engage and to participate with the public consultations that as they are conducted during the implementation, during the development process. We'll be keen for every one of you to be a part of what we're doing, part of what is you know, the ongoing stuff that's going on. So we have the roadmap for the exposure drafts. It's good to know the overall project plan so we can see how we as a country, Sierra Leone, can fit in. So the analysis of the consultation paper responses was presented on the 2nd of February, and there is a summary on the website also. The analysis from the consultation paper responses will form the basis for developing the draft guidance, and this will be done in 3 tranches of work. Each would be culminating in the release of an exposure draft. So after each exposure draft, there will be a 4-month consultation process period, and during that period, we would have seminars and webinars and regional consultation meetings. And this is where we would expect you to come in terms of the webinars, you know, bringing in ideas, critiquing the exposure draft, looking at issues and challenges which can be addressed. And so individual and organizations will be invited to submit their responses to every tranche in writing via the website. And the feedback from the exposure draft will then inform the changes that we'll make to the final impact guidance, which we hope to launch in 2025. So now we're looking at the Sierra Leone strategy and how we can adopt. So what can we do, basically, is the question. I think in order for us to have a voice, we need to be aware of the proposals being made and the questions. So we will be asking you to visit the website, subscribing to the project emails, and looking at you know, the webinars and things like that. The guidance definitely has been developed as the guidance is being developed. For us to share our opinions, some people would be invited to the regional consultation events and focus group discussions, and all of us are free to submit written responses to the questions for the exposure drafts. Who should be involved is another question, and basically anyone can be involved, any of you, and also more people in terms of if we try and reach out to other NGOs that are not represented here today, or the colleagues in finance section, in the finance sector, in NGOs, country directors and people and consultants, and even auditors and regulators are also welcome. So the project is particularly keen to receive responses from everyone. So if you're interested in coordinating a response from your organization, you can register your organization as an organization champion, and the project will be able to provide some guidance for you in that role. So definitely, if you think that, you know, say for instance, World Vision wants to be a champion organization, you can register World Vision as a champion organization with us, and we would give you guidance as how to take it through and how to develop that to be able to get to that point where we want to get to. We're also keen to establish a Sierra Leone working group, and I want to invite every one of you here to think about being part of the working group. Basically, if you want to be a part of the working group, to look at, you know, wider perspective, to look at the whole consultation paper, the whole exposure draft in more detail, you can WhatsApp. You can send me a WhatsApp on my WhatsApp number is 076. Sam has put it up, 853396, or you can send me an email to leslieWilliams_UK@yahoo.co.uk. It's all small letters. So what is the end goal? Firstly, we want to make sure that the international guidance doesn't get written without the expertise of Sierra Leonean professionals like yourselves, and without the perspective and input from Sierra Leonean stakeholders. And secondly, it is hoped that Sierra Leone will be a country that can adopt the guidance. So we'll need to make ourselves ready to adopt the guidance by 2020. When it launched 2025, we'll make ourselves ready to adopt it going forward before 2030. So take this opportunity, want to say the single most important message we'd like you to take away from this whole meeting is that we have an opportunity of a generation to shape the future of non-profit financial reporting. Share your voice during the consultation process. Useful links, you can visit the website, you can subscribe to the newsletter. You can join the conversation on LinkedIn. You can follow IFR4NPO on Twitter. You can register for free events, and also you can read the blogs on that. We have a few more minutes for any final questions and comments people would like to discuss. So if you have any final question or any comments you want to discuss, feel free to do so in another 5 minutes.
Yes, Leslie. This is Suleiman. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
My question is, do you guys have any local group where all NGOs can connect and communicate? You guys have that group, be WhatsApp or any other types of social media that we can all communicate?
No, and that is a group we want to set up now, the working group. So as I said, if you're interested in being a part of that working group, you can send me a WhatsApp and we'll try and set up that group.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other question or any other comments?
Maybe one question from my side?
Yeah, okay, thank you, go on.
Yeah, with regards to the who could be part of this process in Sierra Leone, I'm just asking if there is any plan to link up also with the board of CPAs in Sierra Leone in this project, due to the fact that once you will have your financial statement put or made based on these guidance, I'm pretty sure that they will be the one to audit and give opinion on your financial statements. So therefore, I do believe that it may be relevant to have them on board from the onset of this project. So is there any plan for Sierra Leone?
Yes, because we invited the audit firms. One of them, I could see one person here for more Sierra Leone. So we are trying to ensure that they also have an understanding of the project and also an understanding of the general purpose financial statement, so that definitely they have to make an opinion on it. Definitely we're going to make sure they're involved.
All right. Cool.
Leslie, there's one other question in the chat in the last 30 seconds. If I can just address this one.
That's
it's
fine.
about social businesses. So the question from ML, I'm sorry, I can't see the full name, sorry. Social businesses already adhere to IFRS. Will the standards accommodate them? So that, I won't answer straight yes or no. Here's a whole chapter on what do we mean by an NPO. We're looking at organizations that aren't government, that exist for public benefit according to their constitution rather than for profit, and that if they generate a profit or a surplus, it is not distributed to owners. It is used for the purpose of the public benefit. So if you have a social business and the owners can take out dividends, then this wouldn't apply and IFRS would apply. So we're not trying to go in a space for organizations where IFRS would be applicable. Then the second question is, what is the pulse from the non-profit world? Have you included them? Majority of non-profits are managed from organizations with HQs in far off countries. Absolutely, we are obviously talking to them a lot, both the INGOs, the international and national. They're very, very much a part of the conversation and the stakeholder groups that we are engaging with, both country offices of INGOs and the headquarters and national NGOs. So very much a part of the conversation. And we did a survey in 2014 and 79% of respondents from 179 countries said, yes, we want a standard. So we know that there is appetite for this because many NPOs are not impressed with all the amount of financial reporting they have to do and the difficulties of it. So I just wanted to address those questions very briefly, but now we're over time. So I'll hand back to you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. Also, Soleil, you were talking about the board of CPA. Maybe I think you're also talking about ICASL, the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Definitely, ICASL is on board full. I can assure you that we are definitely on board fully with this project. So we're looking forward to having it launched and adopted by Sierra Leone. And also Mohammed also is suggesting we involve the National Revenue Authority. Definitely, Mohammed, that would be also another thing that we'll do, will be part of the working group when we set it up. We'll definitely involve the National Revenue Authority and even look at the Corporate Affairs Commission as well, because sometimes we need some of the NGOs sometimes have to liaise with Corporate Affairs Commission as well. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much, everyone, for your active participation in today's meeting. Thank you so much for your feedback. Thank you for your reactions, your questions. It's been a very good meeting. I have truly enjoyed it, and I look forward to adopting the standards and looking forward to the exposure draft and looking at all the reactions and questions that will come from everyone. So let's just keep the fire burning, as we say, keep it moving, and let it not just be today's meeting, but I'm hoping that we'll come back together and we start, working on the exposure draft and things like that. So thank you so much to Tamba for
just a quick one, Les.
great presentation.
Sam, is it okay to do like a photograph of the group? Is it too large?
We can, it'd be excellent. Yes, if you want to just
so can we have all the cameras on,
turn the
please?
cameras on and I'll take a quick photo for sure.
Oh, well, let's do that then, quick.
Press gallery, if you can
please.
Press gallery and then you'll see everybody's faces. That's a lovely idea, Tamba. You can put your mark on this moment in history. So I was there. Yeah. I was there when we got this thing going. Brilliant. Okay, a couple more coming.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, smile. And we'll have one more go. Great, that's lovely. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Tamba, for that suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So I'd like to say thank you very much to Tamba for that excellent presentation, and to Sam for your support and for all the hard work you've been putting into this project. And thank you everyone for your participation and for joining us on this exciting journey today. So hopefully we would move on to the working group, and I look forward to having your WhatsApp messages and stuff so that we can set up. Thank you.
All right, so thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.